Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and it is time to talk about Goosebumps House of Shivers book number 5, The Last Sleepover. Trying to get the finger, I can't do it quite the same way she is, but The Last Sleepover. Let's talk about this book. Now, this is going to be a completely spoiler-free review. I am not going to talk about any spoilers. This is going to be completely spoiler-free, so you can have no worries going into this review. I'm going to be talking about the characters, talking about overall plot ideas, not diving into what happens in the plot at all. I'm not going to give any of that stuff away because I know how much I do not like to have things spoiled. Now, that said from the outset, this is book number 5 in the Goosebumps House of Shivers series. And unfortunately, book number 4, Say My Name, was a train wreck in my personal opinion. And I really hope it has not done damage to the series. Because book number 4 was so bad, it's a mess. You can watch my review. I have a non-spoiler and a spoiler review if you really want to dive into what I thought about that book. You can dive into those, see what you think for yourself, or if you've read them, you might know. I have heard from a couple people who liked it and thought it was interesting, but on the whole, most people have thought it was not good. Now, I am concerned because I'm afraid people are not going to read what could be the best book so far. Oh, we're going to talk about it. This one, The Last Sleepover, hooked me from the first chapter. It was so fun, so creepy, and actually legitimately scary. And we need to talk about quite a few things about this book. Now, first of all, this book, it is set in modern day, except for some of it that takes place a little in the past. And I think what's interesting I can't talk about this. Spoilers. So The Last Sleepover is about this girl named Lily who is going to be moving into this house with her family, her brother Rory, who is a couple years older than her. Lily is 13. Rory is like 15 years old. Their mom and their dad, all 4 of them, moving into this old house with like multiple stories. Like it's like a 3-story house with a basement, everything. Perfect setting for a ghost story. Because yes, this is a ghost story from R.L. Stine. And I love R.L. Stine's ghost stories. I think they're my favorite. Goosebumps books are always have to do with ghosts. I think they're just so much fun. I just really enjoy the way R.L. Stine tells a ghost story. And we definitely have a ghost story in this book. Now, I will say this. I do not think you should read the back of this book. Normally, I am very against reading the back of any Goosebumps book because I'm like, it gives too much away. You shouldn't read it. Here, I actually don't think it gives too much away, but I feel like it's misleading. And it misleads you to think of this book in a different kind of way than it actually turns out to be. I'm not going to say what the back of the book says. If you haven't read it, don't read it. I think it will mislead you and make you think this book is going to be about something totally different than it really ends up being about. I also have to tell you, reading this book, it got me. It not just got me, but got to me. And let me explain. There is a sequence in this book early on of one character who feels left out by everybody else and is bullied because of it. And I had a definite visceral reaction to that segment. I'm not afraid to say when I was younger, I was not the most popular person on earth. People were not lining up to be my best friends. I had a good group of friends that I really enjoyed and they were awesome and I really loved them. But I just was not the most popular kid in school. And so I felt so much what R.L. Stine was writing in this sequence about being this kid who is left out, laughed about, pushed off to the side. And I just felt that so deeply. I think that R.L. Stine did a really good job setting that up for the characters and giving a depth to what is going on here that is not always present in Goosebumps books. Especially comparing this one to Say My Name, book number 4. This one has so much more depth, so many more layers going on of what is being talked about, what is happening, the commentary, which I cannot get into here, but I have a theory about this book. A very interesting one, because after I finished this book, I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, what do I think about this book? Like, what are my thoughts? And something hit me about this book that I thought, oh, that's very fascinating. And I am so intrigued about that idea. And I think this book brings it up really well, but we can't talk about it here because it's spoilers. So be watching for my Let's Discuss video, because I'm going to go super in depth on that and talk about what I think this book is trying to say, because this book does have a strong message. It's not like message heavy where the message is like overshadowing what's going on in the storyline, but it does have something to say. And I think it's a very interesting thing that R.L. Stine is trying to get across. And I think he explores it really well and leaves you guessing. Now, I could see some people thinking this book does not have a good twist at the end. I do feel like on first glance, when I finished the book, I was like, oh, wait, that's it? Like, wait, well, was that supposed to be a twist? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's a good twist. And I am here for it. It kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. I don't think the twist is obvious. I think it sneaks up on you a little bit. And I actually was thinking, I am curious if a kid reading this would actually pick up on what R.L. Stine is doing in this book, because R.L. Stine is doing something very complicated and very interesting, because he's really talking just at a very basic level, no spoilers here, but he is talking about the things that scare us versus the things that should scare us. And I think that that conversation is fascinating. I think we don't talk about that enough. There are a lot of things in the world that we think are scary as human beings, that we have a fight or flight response to. But then there are other things we don't have a response to because we don't always think about the implications or where it could go. And we don't think about how that actually could be more terrifying than the thing we think is terrifying. And I find that conversation so interesting, and I will talk more about that in the Let's Discuss. Now let's talk characters. Character-wise, we have Lily and Rory, who kind of take the front stage and are, I wouldn't say one of them is the lead and one is the side character. They kind of are both lead characters, like co-leads in a way. They kind of go back and forth between the two of them, talking about the different ways that they're interacting with the ghost, etc. I think Rory is kind of an interesting character because he cares about his sister quite a bit, but he also like kind of teases her. I actually feel like these felt like more of a realistic sibling pair than other sibling pairs. Often in a Goosebumps book, you have a brother-sister dynamic, or even sometimes brother-brother or sister-sister, and one of them is annoying as all get out, and the other one is like the kind of like the regular character who's just kind of going along. And usually the regular character kind of has like wishes, dreams, hopes, and the sibling is dashing all of them. I actually feel like Lily and Rory are more realistic in that they do care about each other. They also tease each other. They also prank each other. They also mess with each other a lot and make fun of each other. And I was like, that is much more realistic than the ways that often brothers and sisters in Goosebumps are portrayed. And I felt like they were more realistic characters, which I really, really enjoyed. I thought that that actually helped to elevate this book so much more. Especially, I keep saying it, but after Say My Name, we had a long way to go up. And R.L. Stine took us there. The plot here is pretty well done. I think you have a very interesting mystery right from the get-go that is at equal points terrifying and horrifying and super creepy. You have a lot of mystery and intrigue that you're thinking, wait, what is that about? I want to know more about that. And we get some little bits and pieces of things here and there. You also have a great side character that comes on about 2/3 through the book that I absolutely loved. And I was like, oh, I'm here for this character. This is such like a Goosebumps type character to introduce. I want more of this character later on. I want to see this character come back. I thought that this new character was so interesting. And I've got more to say about that character later on in our Let's Discuss video. But needless to say here, great later on addition to this book that I feel like where we could have been kind of going around in a circle with, ooh, the ghost is scaring us, we're getting scared, we're trying to find the ghost. It could have been kept going along in a circle like that. This just changed the pace of everything by introducing this other element and this other character in such a great way. Now we do have to talk about, though, there is one section of this book that was like, R.L. Stine, we don't need an in-depth discussion of ghost hunting tools and machinery. This is not a spoiler. This is totally, it comes in probably like a fourth of the way into the book. You have this section where they're talking about ghost hunting tools like EMF readers and like sound recorders and things. And it is a really clunky section of the book. It goes on for about 4 or 5 pages where the dad is asking the kids, now, what is that contraption in your hand? Oh, that must do X, Y, Z. And then one of the characters says, this is what an EMF reader is, and kind of explains it. And then it goes to the next thing and the next thing, just like that. The same setup all the way through. And I was like, okay, I know you're trying to set this up for people who don't know what these things are, but this was real clunky and not the way to set this up, in my opinion. I think you could have done it in a much better way than that. I think you do have also an ending here that some people are probably not gonna love. I think that for whatever reason, sometimes, and I'm going to say this without getting into spoilers, so it might be a little vague sounding unless you've read the book or you've come see my spoiler talk, but sometimes in literature and film and television, there happens to be this zeitgeist moment where everyone kind of latches on to the same sort of idea and they use it in their story. And this book has an ending that is it's oddly reminiscent of some recent films that have come out and some recent television shows that have been released that have the same solution to the problem and the conflict that I was like, wait, what? This is just like that and just like that when you solved it. Now, I think this is a little more interesting than the ways that some other things have done this, but I still was like, this is the same thing. And I know this book was probably in development at the same time those films were in development. So it's not like R.L. Stine watched those films this year and then decided, oh, I'm going to do that in my new Goosebumps novel. Like, that's not how book publishing works in trad publishing. So I was like, oh, that's very interesting that you all got the same sort of conflict resolution idea from somewhere. And I don't know why all of a sudden here's what it is, which we will talk about that in depth in the Let's Discuss video. So all that to say, this was a fun one, but how are the scares? I think R.L. Stine actually put a pause on the humor to amp up the scares in this book. Like I said, the opening presents us with a mystery that is creepy and horrifying and terrifying all at once. You also have some sequences that are legit disturbing. There is an early on action scene that I gasped out loud because I couldn't believe we were doing it. I thought, are we going there? That's happening right now? I can't believe that. And it was super intense. And I thought, whoa, this is really intense for a Goosebumps book. This is a lot more than usual. Like, I would more expect this in a Shivers book or in another kind of series that's a little more intense. That was a middle grade spooky book series, not a Goosebumps book. It was really interesting how it went there. And I actually ended up liking that aspect of this book. I liked that it was a little creepier than usual. And it could be that it's a ghost. I think a ghost lends itself to creepier moments more than like a monster does, or more than say my name. You know, I think it lends itself to creepy moments a little more than other things, but this just was so creepy a couple of times. So scares wise, it's really well done. You actually have very few fake out chapter endings. There are a couple, but they felt earned actually, and they actually felt like they actually lightened the tension that was there in a good way, not in a like, it was really a cat scratching at the door all this time when you heard a spooky noise. Like, it was actually like legitimately, oh, that was a good moment of we needed that little bit of a break in order to keep going on this storyline, because there's some other things that are really intense about this storyline. So I feel like the scares are really well done. R.L. Stine brought it in this book. Now the question is, how do I rank it? So at the end of the day, this one is an interesting one. I have been going back and forth on, is this the best in the House of Shivers series? And is it my favorite in the House of Shivers series? I don't think this book has not cracked my top 10 Goosebumps books of my favorites from across all the series that I've read so far, but this one is definitely a good Goosebumps book. In fact, I would give this book a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think The Last Sleepover, it got me emotionally. It got me in the scares. It had a super interesting mystery. I think we had great characters. I feel like this one and that commentary that I can't wait to talk about with you in the Let's Discuss video. But I feel like this one really hit it all out of the park for me. I really liked this one quite a bit. In fact, as I've been saying, I've been debating about where to put this as, is it my favorite of the House of Shivers books? And I would say this one is a tie for me. Now, I know that sounds like I'm cheating by saying, oh, it's a tie, but legitimately, I think it is. My other favorite book in this series is number 3, Night of the Living Mummy. And mainly that one I really like because it's a mummy, it's Egypt, all those sorts of things. I felt like R.L. Stine did something really different and interesting with mummies in that book that he hasn't done previously in his other mummy stories. But this one has a good ghost story, an interesting commentary, and I loved that aspect of it as well. So they're really tied to me. I really like both of them pretty equally. I really enjoyed both of these books. And I think this one, if you got burned by Say My Name, come back. Come back to Goosebumps House of Shivers. It's okay. This one is good, I promise. I think you're going to have a good time with it. Even if the ending maybe is not your cup of tea, you have, like I said, that one clunky explanation sequence where they're talking about all the ghost hunting materials. But overall, it was so fun. I had a great time reading this book. I don't know if it was just because my expectations were rock bottom after Say My Name. But this one really brought it back for me. I so enjoyed it. I definitely recommend this one if you're a Goosebumps fan. So until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.